All right, guys, we have got us another fun manifold job to do for my buddy Phil over at Mayhem Motorsports. And what you got here is, this is a stainless exhaust manifold for a turbo kit. So it mounts on the engine like in about that manner there. This part sticks up, and then this is where your turbo is going to hook into this area right in there. It is stainless steel. I believe he said it was 304 stainless steel. And the problem with this unit right here, and seems to be a pretty common theme with the engine work that he gets involved in, it is not sealing up. You can actually see it. He left it alone so that I could see it, and of course I can show you there. You see you've got blowout right here where it's all dark, so it's leaking there. It's definitely leaking down here on this end as well, and it's leaking here. This thing is so unflat that there's no way you're ever going to get this thing to seal up. I don't care how many gaskets you use or whatever, it's not going to seal up. It's not going to seal. I went ahead and got my straight edge to check this thing, and it is almost comically out. And I know that probably hard for you to see, but so we're touching here, right here on this side of the ear. So we're touching there, and we're touching right here, okay? It's way low on this side over here, and it's way low over here. Let's go about here to the middle and look and see. And I don't know if you can see right there. I mean, it's like a mile off right here on this side, all right? If you come out here to the very, which would be the bottom of it, it's the same thing. So you've got a couple places that depends on how you push down on it or where your straight edge is at, but you're a mile off over here on this side. So, you know, you can straighten it up over here like this, get in line with this side, and this side's way off over there. So you've got a high spot in the middle here and it way low. This was it was either plasma or laser cut. I don't know what they used, but you can tell it was cut out, CNC cut. But you know, it was not machined at all. It was just left in whatever finish it was. And I don't know what these manufacturers, how they're handling these jobs whenever they do it. The welding doesn't look bad at all. I mean, that's nice looking welds. They did a good job filling it. Got a really pretty bead in there. So I would assume, and I think this is how you're supposed to do this stuff, is that you actually have a fixture that this flange is bolted down to. And when you go to weld your pipes, you know, this is all bolted down. You get in there and you do your welds and you let it cool. I've never built manifolds myself, so I can't tell you the exact steps that people use to ensure flatness on them, but I think that the only way to ensure absolute true flatness is to machine them after you weld it. And you can even use a belt sander. You know, if you've got a nice big heavy duty industrial belt sander, you can easily take these things over to a belt sander and get it probably flat enough for what this is going to be used for. There's a lot of folks that's done that over the years with cast iron exhaust manifolds, is just hit them on the belt sander. I used to have a big 80-inch belt sander, and I ended up selling it a while back because it was just sort of in my way. I didn't really use it very much, but at the old shop, man, we used it all the time. So this is actually Phil's got a little belt sander, and he uses it sometimes on these jobs, but he said this is too big for that belt sander that he's got, and he wanted to see if I could machine it. So that's what we're going to do. This is going to be another shaper job, and this is a great example of why I wanted to acquire my universal shaper, is to be able to set up and hold odd shaped pieces such as a fabricated exhaust manifold. So I kind of did a little mock-up earlier, and this tube is actually pretty heavy. This is a pretty thick wall tube, and it's pretty uniform right in this area right here. So I think what I can do is clamp this in my big milling vise, clamp it over here on the big part of the tube, and then we can probably support it out here on this side with a jack and a hold down clamp. And then we can use my universal table on the shaper to get this thing lined up square with the ram. So that's my planning, that's my thinking. Let's go ahead and give it a try, see if we can get it flat. Here I am working on my mock setup. And what I think may work, we've got this machinist jack right here that we will use to support out here on the outer end. So I've got about that much area or so that we'll be able to clamp there in the vise. And I think that that's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to close it up a little bit. And it looks like it's probably going to catch fine there. And my thinking is that the light amount of cuts that we're going to be taking on this is that this right here should work pretty good. We'll get everything leveled up, indicated. We'll get this set underneath this tube the way it needs to be, get it bolted down, and I think I got enough room. Maybe I can come up with another stud here and put a strap clamp here on this outer end to support it and keep it from moving around. Keep looking at this, trying to minimize a bunch of angular misalignments and things like that. What we might be able to do is use a parallel right here on top of the jaw, come up underneath the flange on both sides, and maybe help try to get this square and parallel with the vise there. I don't know if it's necessary, but we may give it a shot. So that's 1.5 inches right there. We're at an angle, so looks like maybe a 1 5/8 or 1 3/4 parallel may work. Let's I'll try that first and see if we can get it lined up that way. This is my brand new set of parallels made for 8-inch vise, so they're 8-inch long parallels. I just got these from KBC Tools. This is a set of parallels that I had been wanting for the 8-inch milling vices, and I was looking on the KBC website and I couldn't find an 8-inch parallel set on there. They had individual pairs listed. So I emailed Steve Rowe over there at KBC and said, hey, I'm looking for a full set of 8-inch parallels because they have them listed for 6-inch but not 8. And he said, no problem, I can find them for you, and that's exactly what he did. So he sourced these for me and got them coming, and they were, I want to say they were around $185 for this set of parallels right there. I know that they're imported from Asia, but these things right here always do the good job that we need them to. So we got them from 1 inch up to 2 1/8 inches. So we got 1 5/8, 1 3/4. I'm going to go ahead. I haven't even seen what these guys look like yet. So let's unwrap them and see what they look like. They look pretty. Nice finish on the grinding there. And they're labeled as to what size they are. They're a 1/4 inch thick, so these are pretty heavy. All right. We'll give these guys a try and see if we can utilize these to kind of help square up our flange over there. All right, let's try this and see what happens. This may not work, but I want to give it a shot anyway. We may still end up having to indicate the table, and that's the reason why I'm setting this up. We can utilize this universal table to pivot or nod the way that we want and line up the flange. But we'll go ahead and see if we can push it down on these to see if we can get it straight enough to cut, and if not, we'll just go ahead and indicate it anyway. So let me grab the part. And I'm looking down there to make sure I don't go into the vise too far and clamp on that radius up here on the side. So it looks pretty good right about there, and so far it's working. All right, we're pushing down. It's square against the parallels. So clamp it with the vise there. Straighten these up here. Do this again. Okay, there we go. Like I said, this may be, because of the way the flange is bent, this may be, kicking it up too far on this end. I don't know yet. This may be too far on this end. We're just going to have to indicate it from there and see. But I'm kind of liking the way that's looking right there. They're definitely touching. So let's go ahead and I'll move on with the, we'll get the jack over here to support this outer end, and then we'll start working on the flange face, getting it indicated in. I need to clean this too. and get some of that gasket material off of there. I should have already done that, but I wanted to make sure that you guys saw that before I clean that off. I've been gathering up my hardware here, and I think what we can do, we're going to try this. Get my little kneeling pad right here. All right, see if we've got enough screw length here to support the tube. And you can see this jack has that V in the top that pivots. I think that's going to work out pretty good right there. We just need to give this outer end some support, try to prevent it from moving under the tool pressure. Feels like that's going to get it right there. That's as far back as I can go because of the Y up in here in between. The other thing we're going to do, we're going to use this T-slot right here. Let's go ahead and get the stud in there. All right, and we can adjust this up to give some pressure. So we're going to put a washer. I'm going to use this coupling nut right here to tighten up the jack and keep it in place right there. All right, now I'll have to get a different wrench for that one, I think. Nope, that one works too. Good. Just come up until it's snug. All right, so we'll use the coupling nut right here. Got another stud here. Go ahead and put this stud in the coupling nut. All right, and we'll put a strap clamp and put our step blocks over here on this side. All right, we got us another stud and a strap clamp, flange nut, and we got these step blocks here that we can use. This step block here, and then these are the adjustable height step blocks, and we can use these to stack on top of each other like that. And the idea is to strap it like this with a clamp. Get it to where the clamp is actually square to the tube, maybe, I don't know. And clamp it like this. So the block is hanging out, but the area that it's pushing down on is actually on over the table there. So that's the idea right there, and I think that might work. But the problem I'm seeing is this flange is not actually square in line with the stroke of the machine right here. You know, it's just sort of kicked at a little bit of an angle. And I knew, or you know, if we feed from the left to the right, we'll come off and then we'll clear the nut. But the problem is it's at an angle. I don't know if once I'm over here cutting this back side, you know, the stroke's going to be continuing to come out here. This may be in the way. I may need to spin this vise a little bit to get this flange over here in line so that I know that I clear this nut right there. The problem being is that I'm using the T-nuts now and the center stud here, and I may have to use a different clamping method to spin this vise a little bit. Let me, I'll bring you back and show you what we figured out. I think I improved my setup. I'll show you what I did here. We're just about ready to start indicating. So here's our machinist jack setup. We've got a 1, 2, 3 block. The 2 step blocks there, that's pulled down nice. And what I did was I kicked the vise around like that. We've got a little toe clamp holding that side there. We've got it pulled down nice and snug. And we've got that T-nut in the middle holding the slot of the vise there. All I've done is just use the tool as a visual reference from the corner of this radius here to you know, this corner right there. So if I run the tool up with the shaper ever so slightly, we're lined up right on the edge there, and I just brought this down, making sure that we're clearing everything, and then we're going to be cutting right up there on the edge of that flange as well, and we'll be clearing the nut. But the important thing on this setup is to make sure that I don't walk away and forget to stop feeding it, because at that point it'll start hitting the nut. You know, you got maybe 3/4 of an inch right there of clearance. So I think we're ready to go. This is pulled down snugly. Our vise is nice and snug. We need to clean this surface here and go ahead and indicate it and see where we're at, because we need to get this relatively straight with the stroke of the machine there. While we're setting that up, I thought I would point this out. I've got my little ThermoPro radio here, so I can monitor the temp of the Kamado, because let me take you out here and show you what I'm doing. It's a beautiful day today. Look at that blue sky. Temps are mild. I got the Kamado going, and I am cooking a pork roast. Let's give you a little peek. See that right there? So watching that, that'll be an all day low and slow smoke right there, so that we'll have us some pulled pork for dinner. Get all that gasket scraped off here. I went ahead and tapped the flange here very lightly, just to seat it against the parallels. So it is pushed down on the parallels now, and that's, I want to make sure that it maintains a stop there, so it can't sink down into the vise there, just like if you was sitting flat on the parallels down in the bottom of the vise. So we're going to go ahead and start indicating this thing and see. We're going to check side to side first, and I've got this nice 1, 2, 3 block, and we'll just simply set it right here on the flange. And it actually looks pretty straight across there, so we'll just set it right there, and we're going to run an indicator back and forth across here and see how flat we are, because we may have to do some indicating. All right, we got the big steer it dial on there to make it a little bit easier to read. Let's just start with that right there. I'm going to hand crank it over. Oh yeah, we got a long it's definitely angled there. Let me come back and put some more preload on it and see if we can tell how far out it is. So I'll probably go ahead and crack loose the table and then spin it to get this part of it true. 10, 20, 30. A good 30 thousandths from side to side there. Yeah. All right. So we'll just use the table, and I'll crack everything loose, and we'll start getting it indicated. This is going to be the worm screw down here that's going to allow the table to rotate the way we need. Just keep working the table back and forth and adjusting the rotation at the same time. Went the wrong, too far, I mean. It's getting pretty close there. Looks like we might have got it right there. Yeah, that's going to be pretty close for what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and snug it up, and then we'll check it again. All right, we got the table tight there. Let's go ahead and run it across there. I think that's going to be plenty close for what we are doing with this job. Yeah, I'd say, you know, within a thousandths, and this block is probably rocking a little bit as it's pushing down on it. See that? That's exactly what it's doing. It's rocking right there in the center. So we've got it within a thousandths. even with it rocking. That's gonna work good right there. All right, so we got side to side. Now we need to tighten up the tilting part of the table and be able to rotate it this way to get this flange in line that way there. All right, here's a good look at what we're gonna be doing to indicate it. I've just got one of my good 12-inch parallels sitting in the center of it. So we're gonna average it based off the center point of this and make both of our low sides even. And you can see it's out quite a ways. And that's just because we're not sitting flat in there. So this is where we will loosen up these two nuts here, and then we've got these two nuts here, and then our table can rotate. All right. Start moving the worm as the indicator is going back and forth there, ever so gently. I just stare at that needle. Wow. It's moving just like it did before there. Oh, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I had the feed. Actually, I had the knee. It was elevating there. That's what's going on when we wrapped it earlier. All right, so let's. Now let's check it. Half a thou. Within a half a thousandths of being straight across there. We're just going to leave it right there. It's really difficult to try to get that dead zero once you get to the tipping point. So that's perfect. We'll go ahead and get the wrench and lock it down. A lot of times when you go to tighten up these nuts, it does try to move it very so slightly on the indicator there. So it looks like it moved it about a half a thousandth out, but so we're within 1,000ths of being straight on the parallel itself. All right, guys, we are ready to touch off on the flange and start making our cut. There's the tool we're going to use. That's the same tool that we used on the aluminum intake manifold. And what we're doing is we're just double checking everything. We're making sure that we're clearing this. We're making sure that we're clearing this pipe right there. I've also made sure that the vise was adequately tightened down. This is tight, so I just double checked everything. So I've got the tool clearing the flange, and what I'm doing is I've already got everything set, assuring that everything is clearing like it should. So that'll be the end of the cut there. We're going to start over here on this side and cut from left to right.